Hello and welcome to JAYsetRADIO, the podcast all about video games and geek stuff. That's pretty much it. That's what this podcast is about. Today I want to get into some news that's been going on over the past couple of weeks, and I want to talk about why does Kratos in the new God of War say boy so much when his son's name is clearly Atreus. And I also want to get into why you should absolutely do not buy the Royal Edition of Final Fantasy 15. Let's get into it. So over the past couple of weeks, there's been some announcements and there's been some news going on. I want to get into some release dates for things that have been anticipated. First, I want to get into is the Spider-Man, the newest Spider-Man on PS4 made by Insomniac Games, the same studio behind Ratchet and Clank and the earlier Spyro games back in the PS1 days. They're working on that Spider-Man game, and that has a release date for September 7th. I'm sure a lot of people will be excited about that. Also, there's been speculation for a long time, and it's been confirmed. The speculation was that being that the Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy was so successful, what did that mean for games like Spyro? And finally, Spyro is getting a remake, and it'll contain the first 3 games, and it's called the Spyro Reignited trilogy, and that is coming out on September 21st. The next piece of news that I want to cover is probably briefly been covered already, but I haven't seen many people talking about it except for sources like IGN and maybe GameSpot. But the Mega Man X collection is coming to the PS4, the Xbox One, the Switch, and of course the PC. So basically what this collection is going to entail is it's going to be broken down into 2 collections. It's going to be, for collection 1, it'll be Mega Man X1 through X4. Collection 2 will be Mega Man X5 through X8. And if you want to buy each collection individually, that'll run you about $19.99, or if you want to just buy both of them together on a physical disc or cartridge for the Switch, it'll be $39.99. So hopefully anybody who's a fan of the Mega Man X series will definitely be picking that up, because I know I might consider it. The only thing that'll put me off is the difficulty of the Mega Man X games, because any true Mega Man fan knows that Mega Man games are fucking hard. Alright, so that's just some of the stuff. Oh, can't even believe I forgot this. Shenmue 1 and 2 are coming to modern consoles. It'll be coming to the PS4 and the Xbox One. It will not be a true remaster, so Sega says. So there will be some updates to the visual. There will be a new control scheme. You have the option to choose between the classic or a newer control scheme, and then you can choose between the Japanese and English voices. And I know that's good for some people, because some people cannot stand English dubs, just like with anime. And there's people who hate everything related to English dubs for things Japanese related. So that's some cool stuff that'll be included in the Shenmue HD collection for 1 and 2. So hopefully if you're looking forward to that, you'll be excited about it, because I know I am. So the first topic that I wanted to get into, that I really wanted to talk about for a few days now, is the Final Fantasy 15 Royal Edition. And I've been hearing so many things about Final Fantasy 15 lately, because I listen to the Final Fantasy Union podcast, which is run by Daryl and Lauren. You check them out. It's Final Fantasy Union on YouTube and on iTunes. So basically, they were talking about something recently, and it just made me think. It just made me think back to the Royal Edition. So basically, the content for Final Fantasy 15 is going to continue, and it's going to continue into 2019. They will be releasing 4 additional episodes in addition to the episodes that they released before for well, it wasn't 4 additional episodes, it was the 3 episodes for Ignis, Prompto, and Gladiolus. In addition to those, they are releasing 4 more. It will not affect the main story. It will not change anything in the main story. It's basically just side stories, the way DLC should be, not making you feel like they took a portion out of the game just to sell it to you later at a fraction of the price. So basically, it'll be episode Arden, possibly episode Lunafreya, and I think episode Aranea. So basically, the thing about this that bothered me is that in March they released the Royal Edition, right? So the Royal Edition, which is basically supposed to be quote unquote like the complete edition of Final Fantasy 15. See, now the problem with this that I was thinking to myself is that, okay, this is supposed to be the Royal Edition. It's supposed to have everything included that wasn't on the base game that we got back in 2016. So it's like we're led to believe that this is the complete version. Meanwhile, they're creating more content that's not going to be on this version. So technically, it isn't the complete version. I mean, if you want to see it as it's the complete version because it has everything related to the main story in it, okay, fine. But true people, I mean, people who want the true complete edition of this game will want all these additional episodes on there. And another thing that just makes it feel so cheap is just that when I found out about this, I was like, okay, yeah, that is really really cheap. So basically, what Square Enix did is because they made such an overproduction of the Final Fantasy 15 discs, what they did is they took those discs and they basically just repackaged them in a new case and labeled it the Royal Edition. They put in a voucher where you can take it to the PSN store or the Xbox Marketplace and you redeem it and you get the add-on for the Royal Edition. And I'm just like, that is so cheap. I get it. It's because you can't fit that amount of content onto a Blu-ray disc. It's just we're not there with technology yet. So it's not going to happen. So I get why they did that, but at the same time, it just feels really cheap. It just reminds me of back in the day when, you know, you buy a complete edition on the PS3 or the Xbox 360, and that's how it was. You would get a code and a disc. Some of the content will be on the disc because it could fit, but the rest of it you had to redeem through a voucher. And that just sucks because people want to turn on their game and they know that everything is on that disc and they don't have to worry about downloading things and waiting for things to update and stuff like that, because that sucks. Like, it really does. So I just feel like it was really cheap on Square Enix's part, and I know a lot of people will feel cheated by this, and you should, because it's basically like you're paying $50 to buy the same disc that you probably bought back in the day when Final Fantasy 15 first came out, and anything you're getting is a different case with new artwork, which is gorgeous by the way, and you're getting a voucher code. It's cheap. It sucks, and it bothered me more than I cared for it to, because I actually traded in my copy of Final Fantasy 15 to get this version, only to find out I'd basically be buying the same game again, and it have some new, some new content in it. Like, the Regalia can now go on the water. There's some new dungeons in the Insomnia ruins. I think there's some new scenes too. But yeah, I feel like I've talked about this to myself in my head so long, and I'm just tired of talking about it. I just need to get it out. And I just feel like if you want to play this game, don't get the Royal Edition. It's just so cheap. Like, it's just the way they went about it is so cheap. It's not fair to people who really care about this. I mean, if you really care about it and you don't care about redeeming voucher codes, cool. But I've said this to people before, but I'm like, you never know when those servers in Sony go down. What are you gonna do? Like, if you deleted the content from the Royal Edition for whatever reason, because you needed the space or you just didn't want it there, and then you decide, hey, I want to play episode Ignis or episode Prompto, and you go to download it, but the Sony server is down, you're not going to be able to get it. That's why it sucks that it's not all on the disc. And because of the fact that they are also adding more content, which is great. It's great that they're continuing to support Final Fantasy 15. I think that's fucking great, because the game is good. It's good, and they didn't give up on it. Like how, what's the name of that company, BioWare, how they kind of just gave up on Mass Effect Andromeda. So yeah, they're continuing, and I think it's good. I just don't think the way they're marketing some of the things related to Final Fantasy 15, I just think that it's kind of cheap and it's not smart on their part. So that's pretty much what I want to say about Final Fantasy 15. The next thing that I wanted to get into, the other main topic for this episode, is I've been playing a lot of God of War lately. I'm pretty sure all of you have. The brand new God of War, which is also a sub name for it I've been seeing going around, is Dad of War, but whatever. What I wanted to talk about really quickly about God of War and why Kratos says boy so much, because he says it so many times you can make a drinking game out of it. Anytime Kratos says boy, you take a shot, and you'd probably be drunk before the end of the night. So I wanted to get into my own personal opinions as to why I think Kratos says boy so much to his son, whose name is clearly Atreus. So what I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, I kind of get why he is saying boy so much and he's not acknowledging by his name, Like, I get that he probably just doesn't want to have that type of closeness yet. I mean, even though that is his son, and for spoilers, like if you haven't got that far, Atreus does mention things like, "Oh, you were hardly ever around," and Atreus was always with his mom Faye, so Kratos was hardly around. So you can tell that for a big portion of Atreus's life, Kratos wasn't present. Like, he was there, but he wasn't really present the way he should have been. So the way I see it is that Kratos is still somehow torn up about what he did to his wife, and his daughter Calliope. And I think it was back in Chains of Olympus. There is a scene where he does go to see Calliope, but I think that the gods are just fucking with him, and basically giving him like delusions, and he's seeing his daughter, and he wants it to be real, but in the end it turns out it's not real. So basically, I feel like he's not entirely ready to give that part of himself to show that he can have that bond with his son too, and care for his son the way he showed that he did care for his daughter, even though he killed them, or killed her and his wife. So I just really feel like, because I haven't finished the game, I'm probably maybe about like almost halfway through it. I'm not gonna say anything to spoil it, because I'm not about spoilers. I hate spoilers personally. And so I feel like, being that he had a daughter, a child before, he's probably not ready to just be that close to someone again, because he doesn't know what's gonna happen. He doesn't know if he's gonna change. He could change for the better, or he could change for the worse, and who knows. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but what if something happened and he had to kill Atreus again, and he allowed himself to get close to him, and then he ends up killing him? Then it's just like Calliope all over again. And acknowledging him by his name would only signify that he's growing closer to him, and he's allowing himself to have that relationship with his son that is clearly evident that he doesn't have. So those are just some of the just those are just some of the thoughts that I had on why Kratos is constantly saying boy, because he says it so damn much. So maybe, if you feel otherwise about my thoughts on this, you can let me know. I have an email for this podcast. It's jaysetradio@gmail.com. It's JAY, not just J. So JAYSET radio at gmail.com. Let me know your thoughts about this. Let's get into a discussion, and let me know what you think about the stupid Royal Edition of Final Fantasy 15, and what do you think about the news. Yeah, so for this episode, the music for this episode is going to be by Ital Tek. It is called Shinra, and I will talk to you guys soon. Adios.